Hey everybody, old folks. I want to talk a little bit about marksmen today for kind of a tier bracket. Kind of, people ask who's the best at this. Outside of Robin, there are no marksmen per se that are legendary. Um, I don't want to get into Robin. I like him just because he's legendary. I always liked him. It really requires again that 5-star thing, but I don't want to touch him. I want to talk about the free ones, that you can get in the game through different means. Obviously, there's a lot of different ones. That the only one I don't have is Torin. He's the bottom of my list, but we'll come back to him later. So when we talk about marksmen, who are the top marksmen? There's a lot to take into account. Ultimates, sheer attack damage and speed. People like Zoe that's got her AE for gathering people up that'll help other people maximize hitting groups. Pearl and her pop-up ultimate, stuff like that. So, there's a lot of discussion. Who's the best? When you start to look at sheer damage, a Mira and a Lufia, gold starred, even dots, even equipment are going to be pretty close damage-wise. The perk of Lufia, she's going to do a little bit of AE as well as have a interrupt with her ultimate, where Mira becomes focused on that lowest hit point person, sometimes to a negative side, but does some great damage. Those are kind of some of the ones you're going to see in a lot of teams. A lot of people will build Ruby just because, again, Ruby's free, gotten through the pool. A lot of people go for Ruby. Gearz, again, Gearz is a top one. And so it gets really difficult to say, here's the best and here's the worst in most situations. Let's just be honest. Jolie, in her current form, when they change her from a gunslinger, just went to the bottom of the barrel. Isn't a top pick. West is pretty good. Gridlock has his moments. He's probably my second from the maybe third from the bottom. Not the best, not the greatest. Really dependent upon that silence. The speed up for me is just not worth it in his current stage. Coco has his moments again, but again, I'm not a huge Coco fan, but I know some guys that are. But I'd say he's a middle of the packer along with West. West has gotten a little bit better. Can do some great stuff, burst some people down quick. Pandarus is awesome against those healing teams, especially when you look at him and his skills, and you get down here to the Venomora. Has some really great abilities there with that. York plays well into certain team compositions. Sue's a phenomenal tank shredder. Pearl's just an all-around great backliner, great knock-up specialist. Zoe for interrupting. So all these characters have something. So let me just share my opinion. And again, this is my opinion. It's like the old saying, everybody's got a butt. Everybody smells different, thinks theirs doesn't smell. This is my opinion. When I think I'm going to build a team, I'm going to have Gearz, Mira, and really Lufia as my top 3 damage guys. And I love to pair it with the Wreck, but again, that's kind of my dream team. If I could get these 4 people and put in a Kaiser or put in a Sealy, someone like that, that's going to be my AD specific team that I'm really going to shoot for. Those are my kind of top people. From there, I would say a Ruby, a Zoe, a Sue, a Pearl even, but maybe not as much damage-wise, but a Pearl or a West or a Bibo, those kind of come into my second tier. Those are the people that do great damage and have some really good crowd control. I may not see as much damage in some ways over a long fight. Some burst down a lot faster, but those are probably my second group of people that I would choose. York, I like York. People always ask me, why do you build York? And I say, I've got this dream down the road of building a Spar York Yawn. I mean, I've got a lone dog team I want to build. But, he does decent damage. Can be a little bit tanky with an item. So he's probably my middle of the road kind of person. Again, probably with that Gridlock and Coco. Kind of seated in there. Pandarus is probably a tier 2 person, in all honesty. And so that really leaves basically at the bottom of the barrel for me a Torin, a Jolie, as my weakest people. So again, this is just my opinion. Gearz, Mira, Lufia, those are really my 3 main AD people. I've got a buddy that's got Bibo and says, he's close, but he's not there yet. He's got him gold star level 90, and he says, you know, I like him, but I don't know if I'd say he's as good as the others, but he's probably my second rank. So my second rank, you know, you start to see the Ruby, the Zoe, the Pearl, the Sues, the Pandarus, the Bibos, and then my third ranks, you start to see the Yorks, the West, the Gridlocks, Cocos, and then of course Jolie and Torn down to the bottom. I don't really mention Wreck just because Wreck is not, in my opinion, a marksman. He is a buffer for marksman. He works well with other marksmen, but on his own, his damage is terrible. His shield is decent, but it's only good against physical attacks. So I don't really view him as I'd almost say he's a support. I'm just going to be honest. That's what he does. So if you got any questions or comments or thoughts on these guys, you know, feel free to post them. Again, this is my opinion. I think you can build a solid team. You know, go look at the 290K of Dwizzles. You know, you're going to see a similar thing there. But there's a lot of opportunities for some great AD teams built with any of these. So, you know, I don't want to take forever, but you could run a Sue. You could run a Zoe. You could run a Ruby. You could run a Gearz, and you would push that team away from you non-stop. You just need a really good tank, you know, but without a wreck, you're not going to have the lifesteal you want. So, I mean, there's limits to how you can build a team just off marksman. But I hope that helps. If you got any questions or comments, feel free to post them. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.